Hello there. I'm Kay Byfield, and this is your ArtSpeaks Studio moment from ArtSpeaks Studio in Dallas, Texas. We offer online and in-person classes to students, particularly in watercolor. Today I'm going to talk about the organizing principles of design. Once an artist decides to do an artwork, they have to figure out, why am I doing this? What is it about? And then they have to compose the painting or the piece of art in order to have the highest probability that it will express their intention. They do this by using the elements and principles of design. The elements of design are pretty consistent across the board. You'll see a little bit of variety if you look them up, and there might be slight changes in the list. But for two-dimensional works or for three-dimensional works, those lists are pretty consistent. The principles of organization, the way the elements come together and are organized, however, can vary pretty significantly. And I attribute this to the connotations that we have about words and the difficulty we have with definitions. If you look at them closely, however, you will find that they're choosing to use different words, but the meanings tend to overlap. My list of the principles of organization include harmony, conflict or contrast, variety, dominance, repetition, balance, and gradation. As with the elements, no single artwork will include all the principles of organization, and the specific combination of principles used will be determined by the goals of the composition. Harmony is defined as a pleasing arrangement of the elements within a composition. It might be color, it might be line, it might be shape, it might be value, it might be texture, it might be the arrangement of space can have harmony. In this particular artwork that you're looking at here by Joseph Raphael, you will notice that the colors are in harmony, as are the shapes. It's a very restful kind of presentation, and you would know that it's water and it's very gentle. It's all done in pastels, very light colors, very pleasing. It's a harmonious composition. With contrast or conflict, the elements are arranged in such a way that they are juxtaposed against one another and conflict with one another in some way. So you can have color that's in conflict, you can have value that's in conflict, extreme light and extreme dark. You can have shapes that are in conflict, so that you have rounded shapes and you have geometric, more angular shapes, etc. In this particular piece by Stephen Quiller, it's the color that's in contrast. He's using complementary colors, yellow and violet, and they are in conflict with one another. Variety is the principle of using different elements next to one another to create a sense of interest in a composition, to keep it lively. Variety moves the eye and keeps the artwork from being boring and predictable. This painting, this watercolor painting by Vasily Kandinsky, who was one of the earliest non-objective artists, shows a lot of variety, as you can see, both in shapes, colors, textures, values, in the whole range. His goal was to have a lot of variety. Dominance is the principle of having one element take precedence over all the others. It attracts the eye and holds more visual weight than the other elements because it is so different. Dominance relies on the contrast of elements, but accentuates one over the others. In this painting by Edward Betts, that big white shape dominates everything else. And we have dominance from the angled forms that are diagonals that go across the entire surface, which give a sense of turbulent seas. Repetition is the principle that creates a sense of continuity and movement around a painting. In this painting by Edith Bergstrom, we see these palm fronds, which is a very common theme in her paintings, are repeated differently throughout the painting. The colors vary quite a lot. The fronds change in size and direction, but it's a repeated shape that gives the paintings a continuity and holds it all together. To be balanced means to have a sense of equilibrium in the composition, so that the left side and the right side seem to balance one another. And we can do that in three ways. We can have radial balance, where everything it rotates upon a central point. We can have formal balance or symmetry, where both the left and the right side are equal. Or we can have informal or asymmetrical balance, where we have heavier on one side and something that balances it on the other side. In this painting by Jerry Ellis, we see a close-up of the wheels and the gears on a train, and we have all those big shapes on one side. He balances that with that bright yellow square on the other side. And so we have all that round balanced by that change, that contrast in the yellow on the other side. Gradation is the visual technique of gradually transitioning from one version of an element to another. This has the effect of moving the eye across the surface of the artwork. In this painting by Judy Betts, she has masked out her light shapes. She's run a wash across the whole surface that her white and light shapes are protected from, and it grades from the blue to the pink to the greenish color. And then she's gone back after that wash has dried, and she's put in some high key light shapes and colors into the painting, as well as painting in the building and so forth. This gradation is very typical of Judy Betts' work. Regardless of how you divide up the principles of organization, you need to use them effectively in order to get a coherent and reasonable presentation. The randomness and freedom in the natural world needs to have a context. It needs to be organized in such a way that the artwork itself can have some meaning. And that's what the principles of organization do for us. No matter what we call them, artists who are successful in creating artworks will use these principles to great effect. A story needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And an artwork needs to move the eye around the surface in a way that creates a coherent organization in just the same kind of way. Artworks that are successful will use some of the principles of design to make them be successful. I hope you've enjoyed this short introduction to the principles of design. In future videos, we will go into greater depth about each of them and how to use them successfully. In the meantime, I wish you much success in your art and happy painting.